Good evening. I'd like to call the joint meeting of the Greenville City Council and the Greenville Utilities Commission Board to order. I'm Mayor P.J. Conley, been presiding over tonight's meeting. First, I'd like to call on our city clerk for our roll call.
Yes, sir. Mayor Connolly.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Foreman. Here. Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Hardy.
Here.
Councilmember Scully.
Here.
Councilmember Robinson.
Here.
Councilmember Willis. Here. Mayor Connolly, have a quorum.
Thank you. I'll pass it over to Chair Garner.
All right, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Greenville Utilities Commission to order and ask the Executive Secretary to confirm a quorum.
Okay, Chair Gardner,
Here.
Chair-elect Blunt,
Here.
Secretary Carr,
Here.
Commissioner Fuller,
Here.
Commissioner Godley,
Here.
Commissioner Swain,
Here.
Commissioner Shaw, Commissioner Cohen.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to the approval of the agenda. Mr. Manager, any recommended changes?
I have no changes, Mayor.
All right, do I have a motion to approve by the council?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Councilmember Scully, second by Councilmember Robinson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, for Greenville Utilities Commission, are there any changes to be brought forth? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Blunt and a second by Dr. Carr. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. Thank you.
We'll now move on to the public comment period for issues that are germane to both the City Council and Greenville Utilities Commission. The public comment period is a period reserved for comments by the public. Items that were or scheduled to be the subject of a public hearing conducted at the same meeting or another meeting during the same week shall not be discussed. A total of 30 minutes is allocated, with each individual being allowed no more than 3 minutes. Individuals who register with the city clerk to speak will speak in the order registered until the allotted 30 minutes expires. If time remains after all persons who have registered have spoken, individuals who did not register will have an opportunity to speak until the allotted 30 minutes expires. Madam Clerk, our first speaker.
Mayor Connolly, we do not have any registered speakers.
Anyone that would like to speak during the public comment period, please come forward, state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to new business. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 1 under new business, approval of minutes from the September 22nd, 2025 Joint City Council Greenville Utilities Commission Board meeting. Motion for approval.
All right. City Council, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Motion's been made by Councilmember Hardy, second by Councilmember Willis. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.
For Greenville Utilities Commission, is there a motion to approve? Have a motion by Commissioner Swain. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Fuller. Any further comment or discussion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to
All
item
right.
number 2.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 2, consideration of recommendation for classification and compensation study. I'll now call forward the senior consultant with Siegel Consulting Group, Mary Ann Edwards, for the presentation.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor Connolly, Chair Garner, council members and commissioners. I want to thank you for inviting me to present to you the results of Siegel's classification and compensation study that has recently concluded. There we go. A little bit about Siegel. We are a national human resources consulting firm celebrating over 80 years of doing this type of work. We specialize in serving agencies and organizations who serve the public. And so our mission of providing trusted advice that improves lives very much aligns with the mission of your organizations. Siegel values our ongoing and very long-term relationship with the City of Greenville and the Greenville Utilities Commission. Over time, we have had the benefit of really coming to understand the jobs in both organizations, the services that you provide, and the pay structures that have been built to serve both organizations. I have served on this account since 2022, and in this most recent study, I served as the client relationship manager. My colleague, Patrice Glasshall, served as the project manager, and she has been with this account even longer than I, way back when it first began, and that was about at least 12 years ago. She has recently retired, but we were joined on this project team with John Park, who was our chief analyst, and Mary Benjamin, who was an associate analyst. Today I want to talk with you a little bit about our methodology and approach to this project, the processes that we used, talk with you, review with you our study findings and the salary structure recommendations that we made, as well as our proposed approach for implementation. Really, the overall goal of this study and the work that both organizations continue to do to maintain this joint pay plan is really to continue to offer fair, competitive, and sustainable classification and compensation that supports your mission and your ability to recruit and retain and perform. The guiding principles of this are to ensure that classifications are internally equitable. What I mean by that is that jobs, when they're compared to one another, the relationships make sense, that they are ordered in the appropriate order. Also, that the compensation plan reflects market conditions, that it meets the HR strategies of both organizations, that it's financially sound and able to be easily administered, and it's accurate and objective. Our project had 5 main phases. They're arrayed here. We began with a process of project initiation, data discovery. We talked with the HR teams of both organizations to get a sense for what problems might be occurring with regard to recruitment and retention. We talked with stakeholders, leaders in both organizations as well to get that input. Then we conducted a process of classification analysis, which really is a fancy way to say we dug in and we studied the work, the jobs that are performed in each organization. We conducted a compensation market assessment, looking at the rates of pay that are offered with many peer organizations, as well as accessing some published surveys. Then we worked with the teams to develop recommendations for a new salary structure, and concluding today with presenting our final results. The classification analysis process was started with what we call a JDQ process, a job description questionnaire. This is a way in which we engaged all of the staff members with the opportunity to describe the work that they could perform on a daily basis. This is a web-enabled survey. In years past, it was paper, so hopefully employees appreciated the more streamlined approach. But we received 599 completed JDQs that covered 401 job titles. We did exempt sworn police and fire rescue roles from completing those JDQs because of the nature of those roles and the rank approach to structuring those jobs. We worked with the job descriptions to assess those functions. We worked with that information in the JDQ and then applied a job evaluation. It's called Siegel Evaluator, and this is a structured way to establish that internal relationship of those jobs to one another. The outcomes of this process really resulted in an updated classification structure with some recommendations regarding titling format that better enables our ability to link those roles to the market. Updates to job descriptions, job summaries, and minimum qualifications occurred as well. As I mentioned, 599 JDQs covering those titles were reviewed, and the outcome there is that there were 36 job families defined, 93 recommended title changes or new titles, and 407 final unique job titles. You might wonder why 407 does not match 401. There were some roles that we did not have JDQs for, so we used job descriptions and talked with staff to understand those roles. Then we moved into the third phase, looking at compensation and assessing that. There's 4 parts to this process, looking at what we call benchmark jobs. These are jobs that can be found fairly easily across different organizations. We identified comparable peers for the city and for GUC, as well as published survey sources. And then we distributed a custom survey document to these organizations to complete for us, analyzed that data, and determined a base salary market condition. And from that market data, we were able to design market-based, market-competitive salary structures. The way we approach the custom survey document is to use a very brief benchmark job summary. We ask peer participants to match based upon the description, not the job title, and to ensure that at least 75% of the job that they are reporting as a match matches the benchmark title. And this survey also included questions about some pay progression practices, what the matching job title was, and what the job base pay ranges were. And when I say a pay range, what I mean is the established minimum and the established maximum of that role. To determine the benchmark jobs, what we want to ensure is that it's a strategic selection of these jobs that is comprehensive. We want to make sure that those benchmark jobs represent the full range of occupations, that it represents the full array of services offered in both organizations, all levels and grades within the structure, as well as focusing in on some hard-to-fill jobs or jobs with high turnover. And the final test case for a benchmark is, will it be a role that we can find in that peer? All total, 140 benchmark positions were identified. Both teams, both HR teams in both organizations weighed into the selection of these benchmarks. And the result of this survey is really a credit to their time and their efforts in both selecting those peers as well as selecting the benchmarks. We identified 25 organizations to solicit information from. They are listed here. It's an array of public sector peers as well as utility peers. Some of the public sector peers also have some utility operations that they provided some information for. And all total from this list of 25, we were able to receive, 22 of these peers participated, and as a result, they will receive a summary report of our survey. We also access published survey information. This helps to expand the information that we get from the peers. It's a very good source of data. You'll see some utility-based surveys listed here, as well as one for the North Carolina League of Municipalities. And then Economic Research Institute and Comp Analyst serve as representation of the general industry or general market. For example, an accountant or an HR role or a financial role can not only be found in your peer competitors, but also within your community competitors as well. So we like to tap into the general industry data for that. All data was aged forward to be effective October 1st, 2025, or 2020, yes, 2025. From the market study, then, we can take that data, pair it with the classification analysis and job evaluation work that we did to design a salary schedule, assign the jobs to those salary grades, and then we also conducted some compression analysis. When I say compression analysis, what I mean is the check to ensure that there's sufficient difference between staff levels and supervisor levels, and that there is a logical difference in grades for some of the job series that you have already identified. So let me talk about what we found in our survey. With regard to the study of the benchmark positions, it covers 48% of the employees in both organizations, so that is a good broad spread of representation of employees. And overall, the pay structure, the salary structure that is used by GUC in the city of Greenville has an overall market competitiveness of 98%. That means that if the structure is compared to the results of the survey in whole, it is just about 2% below what we found as the prevailing structure among those peers. When we look at the distribution of employees within the competitive range, 42% of those employees fall within the competitive range, and let me define what I mean by competitive range. We consider anything that is plus or minus 5% of the market average midpoint as being competitive. So anything between 95% and 105% is falling in a good position. So 42% are falling within the competitive range, 27% are falling below the competitive range, and 18% are falling above the competitive range. You're asking 13% is missing here if we're adding up to 100%. And so the 13%, the remaining 13%, fall in jobs that we were unable to get benchmark data, sufficient benchmark data in order to report. All right. So the overall position of base pay for the city and GUC salary structure as a whole is very competitive. When we compare it just to the public sector peers, it is leading at the minimum by 106%, so just 1% above the competitive range. It's right on par at the midpoint, and then slightly below at 97% at the maximum. When we compare that to utility peers alone, it is out of competitive range in the high 80%. And then when we look at the overall custom survey market average, looking at both the public sector peers as well as the utilities peers, the base pay minimum is at 102%, midpoint is at 97%, and maximum is at 95%. When we add in those published data sources that are in that light salmon color, again, looking very competitive when we look at that slice of data. But when we average those two, the overall average between the custom survey and the published data sources, you're right on par at the minimum at 100%, 98% at the midpoint, and 96% at the maximum. This is a credit to the very active management of this salary plan, of the salary structure in both organizations, starting with the HR departments, leading up to the managing teams, as well as the work that you do as a joint body. So congratulations on a very good result, a very competitive position. We do share for your information how the salary structure compares to each peer. Items in black are falling within the competitive range, that 95% to 105% corridor. Figures in red are falling below 95%, and those in blue are falling above at 105%. So, for example, the salary structure compares very favorably to the town of Cary, which is about 2/3 of the way down. It compares on the lower end to Fayetteville, PwC, and it compares on the higher end to the city of Durham. After those findings, we can then move into salary structure design. Some of the things that we consider when we design a salary structure or update an existing salary structure is the organization's desired position relative to market. Some of those considerations are we in a very hot labor market where we would maybe consider leading the market? Are we in a stable labor market where meeting is sufficient? Or is it even possible to lag slightly? One of the other things we consider are the relationships of the jobs to market value and to one another in the salary structure. So we, for example, surveyed 140 benchmark jobs, but there will be some jobs that we did not have benchmark data for. So we need to consider how those jobs relate to one another in their placement in the structure. The number of pay grades with minimum and maximum is something else that we consider, and the progression of jobs within the job family. When we talk about salary structure, we often talk about there being two dimensions to how we go forward with implementing a new structure. And those two decisions or those two dimensions are paying for the job and paying for the individual. The salary structure is developed around or with a focus on the job. So the things that we take into account are those comparison markets, the pay position relative to the market, and the balance of that internal structure that we created in the classification plan and the external factors that we're seeing in the market. Paying for the individuals speaks to how employees move through that pay range. And the things that we take into account for those types of decisions are the skills, the knowledge, the experience of the individual, their length of service, their time and role, internal equity, performance in some cases. So our recommendations for the salary structure for the general structure, okay, and these are, when I say the general structure, it's the structure used for all roles except for police and fire. We increased that structure to be 100% of the overall market average midpoint. We think that meeting the market is a sufficient strategy to use. It's worked for you well over the last several years. And then we've aged that forward to the expected implementation date using a 2% aging increase. We did adjust the range width to be slightly wider to 59% to better reflect what we were seeing on average in the market. And then we used progressive midpoint differentials. That's the distance between each range, starting at 6% and moving to 10%. And then we revised grade placement for 125 positions to more accurately reflect those market aligned rates. So that's about 28% of the roles. In the police and fire rescue structures, again, so these behave differently than a general structure. We don't look at midpoint progressions. We instead align each rank with what we see as the market rate for those positions. And we maintained in the police structure the current 8 pay grades. We did set the pay for police officer to align very directly with the market, above market a bit, to address recruitment issues. We increased the pay ranges of other ranks to reflect market average rates. And the range widths here do vary from 19% to 58%. The 19% range is really for the recruit for the first level. The person's not going to be in that role for very long, so we can use a smaller width. And then the 58 is for those ranks that will be in that level for a while longer. The change in range minimums from the current to the new structure averages about 14%. This is candidly in line with a lot of the movement that we are seeing in police pay structures, just given the competitiveness for that talent and for those individuals in the workforce. The fire and rescue salary structure, we again maintain the current 12 grades. We increased the pay ranges to reflect the average rates that we saw, as well as to address some targeted recruitment issues. The range widths vary from 5% to 50% in this case, depending on rank, and the change in range minimum from the current to the new structure is about 5.5%. The next slides, for your reference, side by side show the current structure to the proposed structure. This is for grades 106 to 116, 117 to 128, and the fire rescue salary structure, current to proposed, and the police salary structure, current to proposed. So now we have to figure out how to get staff from their current structure to the new structure. And so we have some implementation proposal for you. Very often our clients like us to model several different ways. And we did indeed look at 3 different options. Option 1A looked at really essentially moving anybody who was below the minimum to the minimum, and that was it. We don't often recommend doing only that because you will once you raise that structure, you'll create some compression at the beginning. Option 1B is a very popular approach because it raises employees to at least 5% above the new minimum to ensure that when the new structure is in place, as new employees get hired, there is some distance between their rates of pay and those who have already been working for the city or the Utilities Commission. Option 2 and option 3 we looked at. Option 2 looks at the time in position. Option 3 looks at the compa ratio. And we did not feel that given the extent of the adjustments here that would be ideal for the city or the Utilities Commission to pursue at this time. And so in collaboration with the city and GUC, we moved forward with option 1B. And the estimated implementation costs then for option 1B for the city and for GUC are displayed here. For the general structure here at the top, and as a percent of total payroll for the city of Greenville, it's about a little over 2%, or about $575,000. The adjustment, the implementation of 1B for GUC is less than 1 percentage point at 293, 215. And then for the fire structure and the police structure listed below, option 1B for fire and rescue represents 1.12% of payroll, or $151,176, and for police, 2.4% of payroll, or $243,559. Again, these modest adjustments, they really are a reflection of the active management of these structures that has happened over time. It really helps to defray large costs. I wish that all of my clients were as active in managing their pay structures and their salary structures so that things could be handled more incrementally like this. So our recommendation for you to consider would be to implement option 1B and bring to 5% above minimum. We would recommend to do that you implement the recommended salary structure, which is based on market data, the current midpoint and internal equity considerations that we've shared with both HR teams, and place all employees in those appropriate pay grades as recommended, and then bring employees who are below the minimum of their assigned pay range grade up to 5% above the minimum of the assigned new pay grade. And just as ongoing considerations, please continue to maintain the structure, and we would offer, or I would invite questions, or I've got some guidelines here for ongoing maintenance, but I feel like those teams could teach this. So I want to thank you for your time tonight, and I would welcome any questions you might have for me.
Any questions from the council? That had to be a really good presentation. No questions.
I hope I used your time wisely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much.
GUC, have any questions? Members?
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I would just like to make one comment. I think that both the GUC commissioners and the city council should be very proud of the pay plan progression over the last 15 years. Both boards collectively stated that they wanted to stay with the market. And as you can see here tonight, that work has paid off and continues to pay off, that we can say that we're at 98% of the market and only have to look at incremental changes is a testament to the work of not only the staff, but of both boards collectively to do this.
Thank you.
And I would just like to make a motion to accept 1B.
City council, you'd like to make a motion?
Motion to accept 1B.
All right, motion's been made by Councilor Robinson, second by Councilmember Scully. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.
Greenville Utilities Commission, entertain a motion to accept the report for the study and recommendations.
I move that we accept option 1B.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Godley and a second by Commissioner Fuller to accept the report with the recommendation of option 1B. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. Thank you.
All right.
Item number 3.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 3, consideration of market adjustment merit allocation program for the fiscal year 2026-2027 fiscal year. I now call forward our City of Greenville HR Director, Leah Futrell, for the presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Each year, as Ms. Edwards illustrated, the city and GUC review the competitive posture of the joint pay plan. with the goal, of course, of ensuring that the pay system is internally and externally equitable. And we use a variety of data points to assist us with that decision. Salary market surveys, public sector benchmarks, and local private employers. And many of these you all heard from Ms. Edwards just a moment ago. With regard to salary surveys, the city and GUC, traditionally we've used 7, and they're listed here. Catapult, ERI, Korn Ferry, Mercer, the Conference Board, Willis Towers Watson, and World at Work. You can see that there's very little variation in the projected wage increase. 3.4% of being the low and 3.6 being the high, with an average of 3.5%. We generally have relied on Catapult as our primary benchmark, really because they're somewhat local. They cover many employers in North Carolina and the Southeast, and so they have generally been a very good survey for us to use. And you can see they lean a little bit conservative, so they're projecting 3.4% overall. With regard to public sector benchmarks, because we also consider those, we rely on 26 municipalities and utilities, and we ask them for the current fiscal year, 25-26, what did you all do with regard to pay increases for the year? And 13, half of those employers responded with an average actual increase of 4.6%. We also asked those 26 organizations, what are you projecting for fiscal year 26-27? And only 5 of those organizations responded, probably because it's very early in the budget planning year, so they're unsure themselves. But of those 5, they project an average increase of 4%. Not wanting to leave out local private employers, we also reached out to them. And of the 19 that we reached out to, 3 responded. And for the current fiscal year, 25-26, the average increase reported is 3.7%. And for the upcoming fiscal year, the projected increase is 4%. So this next slide just is a table that kind of gives a 5-year look back as to how the city and GUC have compared to the market. And generally, we've been on point. There are a couple of years there that you see are a little less than market. For the last couple of fiscal years, the city and GUC have been at market. And for the upcoming fiscal year, 26-27, obviously that's to be determined by you all tonight. But again, we repeat what were on the previous slides, with the published survey, Catapult, being representative of the published survey, coming in at 3.4%. Public sector on average 4%, private sector 4%. So the action that's being requested tonight is that you all recommend a 3.25% pay adjustment for the upcoming fiscal year 26-27, applied as deemed appropriate by each entity. And of course, that 3.25% is slightly less than the averages I've shared with you tonight, but that is due to budget constraints. I will entertain any questions at this time.
Any questions for the council?
I have one question, and I'm not sure how it relate. I know when we were in our briefing, I asked something about minimum salaries.
Yes.
Do we know what the minimum salaries are? I know that we do our considerations based on market adjustment and or market rates.
Mm-hmm.
But right now with inflation and expenses increasing, I'm just curious.
Yes, so are you referring to the lowest salary in the lowest pay grade?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Right now, the annual salary minimum is $35,485. That's current annual salary. So it's proposed to increase just slightly due to market results to $35,600. So
And what does that equate to
that
hourly?
equates hourly, it would go from $17.06 an hour as a minimum hourly rate to $17.12 per hour. So again, not very much of a difference there. I do want to point out, though, that after 6 months, most of our employees, excluding fire and police that are like come in as trainees, employees are eligible for a increase in pay of 5% after 6 months. So those are the minimum entry rates, but those rates would increase by 5% in 6 months.
So Leah, 35,600 is the minimum?
That would be the
That would be,
minimum,
and a
yes.
5% increase on that brings it up to 37,380 after 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
And just one more quick question. What position is that?
There are several positions in that pay grade. Would you like for me to name some of those positions? Okay, so, and this is on the city side, I don't have
Right.
GUC, but auto service worker, collections clerk, custodian, laborer, and refuse collector.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the city council?
Any questions from GUC commissioners? Now's the time.
Mayor, we would request a motion for approval.
Okay. We have a motion to approve from the city council.
Motion to approve. Second.
All right, motion's been made by Councilmember Willis, second by Mayor Pro Tem Foreman. Any other discussion?
Just a comment that we have the best staff in the world, and it really breaks my heart a little bit that we're not able to give them a bigger raise. But it is a tough budgetary year. We have to make really hard decisions. So just wanted to make the comment that I admire, respect, and appreciate our staff so much. And we had a lengthy discussion about this, and I'm going to approve this with a heavy heart.
All right, any other discussion?
Just that my purpose for asking that question is because I do a lot of work with housing and food insecurity, and in this current climate and economy, a lot of people cannot afford to live where they work because with expenses raising across the board, what is not raising is wages. And so I wanted it to be elevated that the minimum salary is $17 an hour, a little more than that.
Any other discussion? All right, we got a motion and probably second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.
All righty. For Greenville Utilities Commission, entertain a motion relative to the market adjustment and merit allocation program. I have a motion by Commissioner Swain. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Carr. Any further comment or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item
All
number 4.
right, thank you, Mayor. Item number 4, review of the 401K employer contribution. Now call forward the GUC HR Director, Richie Shreves, for the presentation.
Good evening. As Mr. Cowan said, I'm here to give you an update about the 401K employer contribution. As many of you may recall, in 2024, the joint GUC and city boards approved a multi-year phased approach to increasing the employer 401K. This was to better align our contributions with other municipalities, as well as to align employees with sworn law enforcement employees, who by general statute receive 5%. The phased approach resulted in the 401k employee contribution increasing from $40 per pay period to 3% per pay period in fiscal year 24-25, to 4% in the current fiscal year, and to 5% next fiscal year, effective January 2027. Your thoughtful and strategic decision in that process has positively impacted the recruitment and retention efforts at both organizations. It also reflects to us your commitment to our workforce, as well as illustrates your understanding of having a competitive benefit program and how that positively impacts our ability to recruit and retain dedicated, qualified employees who serve our community every day. So, thank you.
That was just for information purposes only. The City Council and Board of Commissioners approved that last year, so we will progress that up to the 5%, which I will just echo is just a great benefit for our employees. Again, both boards should be applauded for those efforts. That's all we have, Mayor.
All right, I guess we'll make a motion to adjourn. Greenville Utilities Commission first.
Without any further business on the agenda, I declare the meeting of the Board of Commissioners for Greenville Utilities Commission adjourned.
Do I have a motion from our city council?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion been made by Councilmember Robinson, second by Councilmember Scully. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.